when you think about it, we all have buildings, we all represent OEMs, we can borrow money at the banks. Guess what? At the end of the day, whether it's the racetrack, whether it's a guy putting air in the tires, it's all about the people. You know, when I think about it, everybody in your business is important when you think about that and you take that into consideration when you talk to them. And the same thing with, obviously, your customers. It makes a huge difference because what I want to do is let people know that we have an open book here. I want to hear about the complaints. Don't you? I want to hear about them. And I like to go to the pre-meetings. Don't bring me to the final. If you made the decision, why the hell do you need me to show up and maybe change something? Let me be part of the process. And that's made a big difference. What I've tried to do is get into these businesses from the bottom up. And Jason, fill the funnel at the bottom, and you'll obviously get your management out to the top. And that to me has been critical. What an honor, Jason, to be here, and thank you, for the video. Obviously, when I see it, I think about so many changes and curves and things that we've done, within the company. And it was said here, the last speakers talked about human capital, we call it, the people. When you think about it, we all have buildings, we all represent OEMs, we can borrow money at the banks. But guess what? At the end of the day, whether it's the racetrack, whether it's a guy putting air in the tires, it's all about the people. Yeah. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I see a number of my great friends that Presidio has invited, and for me, it's a real honor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about lifetime achievement, some of that I talked about, some that was on the screen, but I want to talk about your dad first, because he was your best friend, he was a mentor, and he taught you about, one of his main messages was the insight of hard work paying off. And if you wanted $10, he said, all right, I'll give you 5, but you've got to come up with the other 5. And effort equals results, which I think you've had on a coin in your pocket.
I've got one in my pocket today in case you want to see it. I want to continue looking at that day in and day out for sure.
Yeah, but that was his message to you, wasn't it? Early on, back from the driveway, or whether you were pumping gas or working on cars. Effort equals results.
Yeah, look, as I look back, and someone said, well, how did you get started? And I think I came from a family that the father and mother were close. They certainly cared about their kids, but also taught me at a very early age, my dad did, if you want something, got to go out and you got to get it, whether it was selling newspapers, enough new customers so I could get a bicycle, or a $10 radio where you needed $5 from your dad. But that kind of elevated my thoughts and my interest. And, as an early kid at 12 years old, they sent me to military school. So I'm not sure what they thought about this son, how he was going to grow up. But I went to Culver Military Academy in the camp. And I think there I learned about leadership. I learned about people. And I learned wanting to get to the front. Because when you walk into military school, and you're the last guy in the last platoon, it's the last place you want to be. So that, of course, gave me a lot of incentive which I've used, I guess, through our business for many years. But, we talk about technology today, Jason, and all the things that we're doing. We're in a high-tech, high-touch business, aren't we? But it still comes down to that face-to-face with our customer. And I go back 60 years as a dealer in West Philadelphia. Think about this. A Chevy Impala, no radio, no power steering, maybe with white walls, by the way, under $3,000. Think about that. And today, our average new car sales price in the first quarter was $59,000, and our used car price was $37,000. So as you see these things change, and I needed to understand more about the customer, and I really didn't know the customer coming out of Lehigh and working for Alcoa until I went to work for the McKean,
George McKean
in West Philadelphia. And 2 or 3 years later, I was able to buy that dealership. But what my dad taught me, when we bought Detroit Diesel, maybe 10 years later, he said, send me 100 repair orders every month, and I'll call customers. That was in the mid-'70s. So everybody slaps, you're on the back about J.D. Power. My dad was Jay Penske, so I call it Jay Penske because he'd send me those 3x5 cards back every month. And that's, I think, what really got us to focus on customers. And I'll never forget it. And to me, his thoughts about integrity, about transparency, about commitment, about hard work, those are all the things that we have. That's my mission plan every single day, and we try to pass that through to our people. Because when you look at our automotive business, and we all have turnover, we run about 18%. And that's world class from what I understand, and that's everybody. That's not just sales or just mechanics, it's everybody. And I think keeping the human capital in place, and we talked about acquisitions. Darrell, I've never found when I can buy a store today that we keep everybody, so I don't know how you do that, but I can tell you this, that we need to have good people. And you have good people because they have domain knowledge, right? Think about going to Indianapolis this year. The guys at the track for us will have 600 years of experience. When you think about that, Six Sigma is not good enough. We got to execute at the highest level. And I think as I look at the business and look at our business, and what we need to do is continue to take this human capital and promote from within. Think about that. I would say 95% of the leadership changes we make in the company come internally. And I think that that's the secret sauce, whether it's the race team or it's in business, no matter what we're doing. So what was said earlier about people, 100%, 200%. And I think that's how we focus on our business, and a lot of that came from my dad helping me very early on as I got going.
He took the loan out so that you could buy that first store, and he told you, I'll go back to work if it doesn't work out. I mean, that's laying it on the line.
Think about Chevy dealership, 1965. I'd been in the business for 2 years as a general manager. I wanted to buy this business. So I went to a bank, said no. Went to the insurance company, they said no. And I got to a point here, the OEM said no, General Motors. I had a deal, I guess you'd call it in those days. You know why? I was a race driver. So at that point, I had to make a decision. What do I do? And on top of that, Jason, the last $50,000, I had to go to my dad, and he had retired. I remember going to Pittsburgh in his car. We drove there, and he took $50,000 out of his bank account. He said, hey, son, here's 50. Go get the deal done. I'll go back to work if you lose it. Well, obviously, I never turned back, and I never went racing another race again. And by the way, that was the start at bought George McKean Chevrolet in Philadelphia, which to me was an amazing opportunity, and just to learn about people and learn about customers. And one thing that maybe wasn't said today, maybe it was indirectly, but what I learned there was two things. You have two customers. Think about it today. One customer is you sitting out here today, I want to sell you something. And the other customer is Jason sitting next to me in my business. we better be sure that both of them, we treat them both the same. Because if you don't, you're gonna lose.
We had Alex Rodriguez up here earlier today, and I shared with him the Penske philosophy on people, and that is, it's hard to get in, and it's harder to leave. And I know that you're one of your philosophies that drives you is that anybody can go to your home, anybody can go to your office, they can call you because you're going to call them, right? No PowerPoints, and details make or break you.
Well, when you think about people and PowerPoints, and when I think about it, everybody in your business is important. When you think about that and you take that into consideration when you talk to them, and the same thing with obviously your customers, it makes a huge difference, because what I want to do is let people know that we have an open book here. I want to hear about the complaints. Don't you? I want to hear about them. And I like to go to the pre-meetings. Don't bring me to the final. If you made the decision, why the hell do you need me to show up and maybe change something? Let me be part of the process. And that's made a big difference as far as I'm concerned. And I think overall, this openness, this transparency, this flat organization, and again, I learned this, and someone from Reynolds & Reynolds is here today, by the way, who we feel very good about what they do for us. But I remember back, some of you remember the punch tapes? You punched your information in, sent the punch tape, hoping it got to Reynolds, and then sent your books back. I remember sitting there going through page after page after page trying to understand the accounts. And I think that dedication got me closer to the people in the office. And then in the shops, we wrote service. And in the body shop. And all these things, when you aggregate them together, forget we're up here today, many of us in the room today, we have to remember this is where it happens. That guy driving the race cars to Indianapolis next week in that big truck, millions of dollars worth of equipment and expertise, he's very important. Don't forget him. Sure, the guy drinking the milk and everything else has got to be there too, but it's all about this execution, certainly at the lowest level.
No big shots either. You call yourself a real owner, not a custodian, and trust your people.
Well, let's say the facts are the facts. We bought United Auto Group back in '99. It had a $125 million market cap. If you look at the New York Stock Exchange today, Penske Auto Group's over $10 billion. Think about that. Think about the business that we're in to have that opportunity. I got that opportunity because I had a partner, my dad, to start with, and guess what? Then I had Motors Holding. And think about today, we got a $2 billion credit line for our company. That's the opportunity we have in the automobile business, because we have partners. And the partners are the OEMs. And I heard people talk here today about brands. 100% right. We've focused in our business on premium luxury. If you look at us across our total business of over 400 locations, 4 continents and 9 countries, 71% is premium luxury, 21 volume foreign, and the rest would be roughly 9%. So, obviously, so important.
Yeah. How do you define excellence in operational efficiency? Because Penske's known for operational efficiency.
Well, it's attention to detail, certainly number one. We talked about integrity before, transparency. And what we try to do, and COVID gave me really as we see Zoom and all these other opportunities for technology, be able to run your business. I am out in the markets, and people talked about new acquisitions and going in talking to people. Absolutely, that's the right thing to do. But what I've tried to do is get into these businesses from the bottom up. And Jason, fill the funnel at the bottom, and you'll obviously get your management out to the top. And that, to me, has been critical.
You've also been, you've kind of called yourself Mr. Opportunity to some extent. You've looked for underperforming assets or undervalued assets, looking at those businesses and then growing a group of people around them. Still the case?
Well, a perfect example, if you go back to 1988, we've been diversified, obviously, you saw it from the video. We were a Detroit diesel distributor in New York and New Jersey, engines for buses, for marine applications, for obviously for trucks, and for large generator sets for data centers. And great business. Detroit Diesel was a part of General Motors. They had the bus business, they had the Allison transmission, they had the helicopter engine business, and they obviously had locomotives that they sold, and they had Detroit Diesel. So back in, I guess, 86, 87, there was some noise that they were maybe going to sell the company. And obviously, when you're going to sell something and you're the dealer or distributor of that, you want to know what's going to happen. It turned out they were going to merge with or be sold to John Deere. And in, I think it was 87, John Deere walked away because of the unionization with the UAW. Well, at that point, we really had our eyes open. What's going to happen to the company? And I had a friend of mine that worked at Lehman Brothers, just a friend. He called me and said, Roger, you should go talk about going to Detroit Diesel and see if you could buy it. I said, woo. Now remember, Detroit Diesel was a company with a 3 million square foot plant in Detroit, almost 4,000 people, had lost $300 million the previous years, and a 3% market share. So when you say undervalued and underperforming, that was the star of the show. So I went to Detroit, and because of the relationships I built up, by the way, through the automotive business and performing, I had an opportunity to say, let's do a joint venture. I'm a great partner guy. I've had joint ventures with almost all the auto manufacturers in some way, shape, or form over the years. And I said, I'll come in, we'll buy 55%, we'll form a new company, we'll put 55% of the capital in and you put the balance in. Well, they wanted to get this dog out the door so fast. I think at that point, anything we could have made really any transaction work. But we came in, and think about it. We had $125 million worth of capital in 1988. Cummins had $2.5 billion, and Caterpillar had $25 billion. So you talk about being the last guy in the race. I mean, we were really in trouble. And guess what? We had 2,000 grievances back in the shop, 2,000. So obviously, we walked in the first day, and I knew the products, I knew what was good, and I knew what wasn't because we were representing them. So one of the first people I met with was the head of the union of the UAW for the shop. He came in and I said to Jim Brown, I said, Jim, what I'm going to do is meet with you and the committee every single Friday, and we're going to get these grievances out. And I said, on top of that, I want to tell you that we're really a man of the people. I am. I'm going to shut down the executive cafeteria or dining room tomorrow. These are the things. We had no break rooms. We built break rooms, a lot of things to get people to know that we did care about them. Well, over time, grievances went away. We built a fitness center. The University of Michigan handled it for us. We built a small school, nursery school for the people that were single parents, all of this on the site. So we started to build this relationship. Then all of a sudden, what do we do with the business? 3% market share in a business like this on diesel engines was terrible. What we did, little by little, we brought customers in, and we were able to use our leasing company to fill some of those trucks with our engines, and we demonstrated those. And within a 30-month period, we got 30% of the market. Think about that today, from 3 to 30. The company got in the black. We continued to grow around the world. And long story short, in early 2000, when the emission certifications and all the things were happening in the heavy-duty truck industry, there's a time to get in and a time to get out. We had built it. We had a value there. We sold it to Daimler-Benz, who was obviously a customer of ours and a partner, because we had to spend $1 billion on emission and R&D and obviously CapEx. So I would say that story of turning that around, and for me, was amazing. Think about it. The biggest ships, military, all these things we were involved in, and it just gave me, and I took the same values of communication with the people. Jason, I remember early on, for a week, I would give presentations to the workforce. And some days at the end, I didn't remember what slide I was on. It was that, but that was the way the business was put together. And I remember when we got there, at 3:30, the lights would be off on the second floor. People went home. I'll tell you, 8 months later, those lights were burning until 8 o'clock because we want to make that company successful. So, I call those things dogs from embarrassed parents, right? You get it? Maybe not.
You're investing in auto retail. Presidio was honored to represent you as you entered the Ford dealership business in Detroit, and the largest Ford volume dealer in the United States. How do you describe the state of auto retailing right now, and where are the opportunities? And you are investing in retail.
Well, as most of you know, PAG is a diversified company because, obviously we're in the heavy-duty truck business, Freightliner. We're international. I think we saw as the businesses today, the opportunity to buy the brands we want. Someone said today the brand is the leader. We just didn't have a big enough pool for us to fish in because of the pricing. So we then moved into international, and Group 1's done that. Lithia's done that. I think they see the opportunities there. Group 1 was there before, and I think they validated we've been. We have 10,000 people earn $10 billion worth of business are in U.S. dollars, 95% premium. So I would say our business today is about premium. Geography doesn't matter to us, as you probably just maybe read this lately. We bought the 3 Porsche stores in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
The closest competitor is 400 miles away. If we can't make that one work, there's something wrong. But we have no tariffs there at the moment, I hope. But so international, premium luxury,
yeah.
Certainly volume foreign. As you know, my son Greg has Longo Toyota, which is one of the largest stores. We learned a lot as we bought that business. But I see the market with a couple things. I think electrification is changing it. Right now, the companies, the OEMs, have spent billions of dollars in R&D and CapEx in their factories. And the market, if you think about it, 300 million vehicles in our car park in the U.S. I think it's 1.5% to 2% today are BEVs. So there's a long way to go. So the pivot for many of us in the premium side, our mix of product for the first 6 months of the year, even last year, last part, was way too high. 50% inventory, 10 to 15% in sales. And now we start to see these states under the Biden administration where the waivers were given to states from the standpoint of emission standards for clean car and clean truck. Maybe some of you don't realize this, but in many of these states where you're mandating electric vehicles, the OEMs are not going to be able to get there. And I think right now in Washington, you should go back to your senator or your congressman and say, vote, vote, vote. We're trying to get those waivers repealed today so we don't have this issue. Think about it. Today for us in a heavy-duty truck, in our leasing company, we've got to buy 1 electric tractor before we can buy 7 diesels. And think about this. The electric tractors, 330,000. The diesel tractors, 120. Guess what? The excise tax is 30,000 more. The payload obviously is impacted by 8,000 pounds of battery. The range, 3,500 miles with a diesel vehicle and 300 with an electric. We can't stay in business. And it's going to affect us. We see it in the UK. Daryl's probably seen it there. 23% last year had to be mandated electric BEVs, not hybrids, but electric, fully electric vehicles. And that changes, I think, the mentality and certainly the posture, the way the OEM goes to business. They moved right into fleet, flooded the market with these vehicles, so we really were out. But I see the same thing here, that as the OEMs are dealing with this clean truck, clean car, we've got to be there to tell our people we've got to get those pulled out. And we can do that in reconciliation, which is going to happen here, hopefully, over the next 60 days. The House passed it to remove the waivers. We're waiting now for the Senate. And that'll clean up. Think about it. The car you sell in California is different than the one you sell in Florida or in Ohio. That's going to clean that all up. So think about that from the standpoint of people here today. We need to be the leaders with our people, with the senators and the people, congressmen that are in this country. We need to get our arms around them and tell them we can't run this business that way. We certainly can't with our diversification. Think about it. We have a Freightliner business in Oregon. I can't sell any trucks because they don't have any electric vehicles. Fullerton, California. We put in 150 kilowatt chargers for a customer, turned them on one night. The next day, Fullerton came and said, if you run them again, it's a $100,000 fine per day. Now, what are we dealing with? These are the things that we sit back here and talk about all the nice things that are going on in the car business. We're worried about tariffs. Jason, I think tariffs obviously are very fluid, but I want to make one step further. Trump obviously has a lot on his plate, there's no question, but think about it. If he can bring $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion worth of investment to this country over the next 3 to 5 years, that's going to be a 50-year benefit. Jobs, capability, GDP, all these things are going to happen. So I think, obviously, I think it's right now very fluid, but that's something that I worry about. But probably also, it's this workforce, this young workforce that we're trying to train and bring with us. After COVID, they want to work at home. Well, I don't know anybody here that can run his business from home. We can't. So I think there's many things.
You went to work right after COVID, right? I mean, everybody came back.
We've had all our people back.
Right.
We had them back, and
Right.
I think I learned a lot about communicating around the world every day to find out what was going on, because, of course, Australia, Europe, and the U.S., lots of different things happening.
Let's talk racing and then legacy. You're going for number 21. Could you believe when your dad came home and you had a couple of tickets to the race back when you were 14, and you drove from Cleveland and you saw Lee Wallard win, that you'd be going for number 21?
Well, let me say this, that think about Mark Donohue in the first race we won in 1972. It was a game changer for us. I mean, the notoriety, the brand that we started to build at that point, the relationship with the OEMs just built through times. Chevrolet, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, Honda, all of these people that we've had the opportunity to win that race for is amazing. And I think it's helped us, drive our credibility, throughout the industry. But this year, 21 would be for us. Obviously, there's tremendous competition today, and they don't give you a lap ahead when you go back. The only thing we have is this domain knowledge, and we're going for a third in a row. It's really never happened, and Newgarden is the driver who will be on the wheel and certainly gives us the chance. And when I look at the Speedway, we were there for all these years. I was there the first time in '69. I was only out there for 5 years. So our win record has been terrific. But I can tell you this, that the relationship there has been amazing with the partners and the people. And most of you maybe don't know this, but 5 years ago, Tony George, part of the George family, and Holman George owned the track for 75 years, came to me and said, would you be interested in buying the Speedway? Well, it was the last thing I thought I'd get from Tony. So I met with them on a Saturday, signed an NDA because we had owned the Michigan Speedway, we built California, we had partnership with the NASCAR people of Francis down in Homestead, so we had some knowledge of the business. Well, long story short, within 30 days, we signed a deal to buy the track. And that was probably 2 months before COVID hit. Now think about it. Sorry to take your time here.
Oh,
it's a
please.
Pretty good story. Here we are, made a deal to buy the track. We close. COVID comes 2 months later, and guess what? We've got tickets for almost 300,000 people to come to the race in May. And guess what? You should have heard me selling my banker about 250,000 at 150 bucks. This is a hell of a deal now. That's why I'm going to make the first payment. So, wow. All of a sudden, it hit us in the head. No race in May. Finally had a race in August, no people. And guess what? We had to give everybody back that had bought a ticket credit for the next year. Because what happens at Indy, this is the best marketing thing I've ever seen. If you have a ticket in Indianapolis, we'll give you 500 hours after the race to renew your ticket. And if you do, you can renew it or upgrade. Guess what? For this year's race, we had 170,000 people paid for their tickets before the race. And it's just amazing when you think about that. But COVID taught me a lesson because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is iconic, it's generational. 300,000 people, the biggest sporting event in the world, but how do we give back during COVID? Well, during COVID, we did 100,000 vaccinations. We took our garages and set them up like small places where people could drive their car and get vaccinated and move on. The town of Speedway couldn't have their graduation for the seniors, so what did we do? We said, get your mom and dad in your car, drive them around the track and come to the start-finish line, and we gave them their diploma. Think about that. But probably the most personal thing that hit me the hardest was Brianne Leith, an African-American female police officer in Indianapolis, downtown, was shot and killed. It was at a time that everybody was we were in just such a situation as a country and certainly in Indianapolis, particularly at this moment. We said, let's have that funeral at the racetrack. Think about 2.5 miles of police cars end to end, the governor, the mayor, and Brianne Leith took her last lap of life around that racetrack. I mean, it gives me goosebumps when I think about it today. It was absolutely an amazing time. So we've tried to take that track. It generates $1 billion worth of economic benefit every year. To take it somewhere, the Holman family with the stewards and the Penske families, the stewards today going forward. So my interest in cars, 1951 with my dad, the automotive business, I can tell you it's all right there in Indianapolis.
What does legacy mean to you?
Well, legacy to me is he was someone that built an organization that people were loyal, they had integrity, they were hard workers, and they can carry this business we have on for many decades.